So, you're an environmental science student in college who wants to get an internship this summer but just can't seem to land one. Well, you're in the right place. I can help you out. I managed to hold a few different internships in college and want to share all of my methods on how to find the right ones and how to actually get the offer. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top tips and strategies to finding and actually landing an environmental internship. The timestamps are below as always. So we'll start with how to actually find an environmental, sustainability, or conservation internship. These methods do apply to kind of everything under that umbrella. I found all of them worked for the ones that I found, and I did have quite a variety of types of internships. I did an internship in DC with the World Resources Institute, so that was like very much an office job working for their internal sustainability campaigns. I also did a lab internship on campus with a professor and a grad student working with GIS on tree cover, and I also worked a remote fellowship with the USDA. So quite a variety. I never did field work. Unfortunately, that's like the one thing I wish I had done, but most of that is because COVID, unfortunately. But that's mostly because COVID hit the summer before my sophomore year, and that would have been the time to actually do the like field internship that I was hoping to do. So these methods helped me land all of those. So hopefully they will help you as well. So to start your search, I would start with your professors of your classes that you took that year. Doesn't matter if you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, whatever classes you took that you really resonated with the professor and enjoyed the content of that class, go up to the professor in office hours or at the end of class and see if they have any research positions open or internships for the summer available. That's going to be your first go-to. Professors are often looking for undergraduate students because they're cheap labor to help them out with their research. So that is a really good starting point. If you don't find anything there and your school has an office of sustainability, I would check with them as well. Some of them will have green teams or intern cohorts that they'll do every year, perhaps every summer. So that would be your second place to check. Now, if none of the more local options are successful for you, then you want to, at that point, expand your search to the broader search networks. So you'll start maybe with the Conservation Job Board, which is one of the more popular databases of jobs and internships for environmental positions. While a lot of folks do use this to find their entry-level jobs, you can also filter by internship and find paid internships through this as well. And then similarly to that one, just not as popular, is the Green Jobs Network. And this one, if you just search internship in the search bar, a list of internships will come up. And using both of these together will help you diversify your search and make sure that you are able to see as many options as you can. Now, if you're not in the US or you are in the US and you want internships that are abroad, then you can search on the Conservation Careers database, and they have internships from all around the world. I will note that they call the internships experiences volunteered and paid, so it does seem like they include paid and unpaid internships here. Just be aware of what the internship does pay and if there's a stipend if you do choose to apply. Now, if you are more open to experiences rather than formal internships, you also might want to check out work stays. I know one that was very popular when I was in college was Workaway, and essentially you can search by region to travel to a place. They'll give you accommodations and usually food as well, and you can work on a farm and get hands-on experience there. Now, with all of these options, you should be able to find an internship that calls to you, that you are really interested in, and that will help support you and your career development. Now it's time to actually apply. For the more formal internships, there are three main application materials that they will typically ask for: your resume, your cover letter, and a writing sample. And we'll dive into each one of those next. When you are making your resume, you can have a master resume that you pull from, but the resume that you actually submit to this job shouldn't be everything that you've ever done. It should be a tailored version that is very specific to the role that you are applying to. So when you are looking at the job description, you can pull out keywords from that job description to put them into the descriptions of what you've done in your work history to make sure sure that you are a match for that role. You can also do a little bit of stalking or investigating and see who actually already works at that company. You can look on LinkedIn and see the activities that they're doing at their current job, and then sneak in those to your resume to show that you can do those skills already. In terms of formatting, just make sure that it looks very professional. There are a plethora of templates that you can find online. Make sure it is very streamlined and concise as possible. And not just for your resume, for all three, you're going to want to make sure that at least one other pair of eyes looks at it before you send it off, just to catch any potential typos and make anything more clear. So with your resume, you are going to want to be very concise. You are probably going to be fitting a lot onto that one page, so you can't really go into too much detail on each work experience. That is meant for your cover letter. Now, with your cover letter, you are going to want to tell a story to the person that's reading it. And in this story, you are going to show them all of the skills and strengths that you have, rather than just telling them flat out. So instead of saying that you are really good at GIS, you are going to tell them about a story map that you developed with GIS for one of your classes in GIS. You are essentially telling them a story about yourself and why you will be good for them to hire through the experiences that you have listed on your resume. You're basically just expanding on the experiences from your resume. When you are writing your cover letter, you also want to keep in mind that they don't really care why you want to join the company. Of course, that's important, but what's more important to them is why they should hire you. So you want to be convincing them with all your heart that you will be valuable to their team, that you will support their company's goals and values, and you want to lay out specifically what you are bringing to the company. Now, the third piece of information isn't always required, but a lot of the more competitive or formal internships do require them, and that is a writing sample. Now, for this, you will want to use a piece of writing from a class that you are most proud of. Obviously, you don't want to submit a paper that you wrote at 10 p.m. while you were cramming to make it before the deadline. You want to pick a piece of writing that you spent time researching and are really proud of how it turned out. And don't be afraid of taking one last pass at the writing sample and maybe making a few edits or tweaks before you actually submit it with your application. They don't know that you made those edits because they didn't see the version that you submitted for class, and you might have to pare it down anyways because of the page limits that some of these writing samples sometimes have. Now, in the case where you don't have a writing sample from one of your classes, or you don't really like any of the papers that you did write for class, you can always make your own. Consider writing a blog post or an article about an environmental issue that you really care about and that you kind of have been researching in your free time anyways. And then you can reuse that writing sample that you wrote specifically as a writing sample for all of your applications. Now, if you are applying to a very competitive internship and you know that there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of applicants, then you are going to need to do something to stand out. Be as creative as you can with your resume and your cover letter and your writing sample. Take creative liberties, make it really personal so that your materials will catch the eye of the hiring manager. Now, the last piece of the puzzle is the interview process. So this means you have gotten through that first round. They chose your resume out of the stack and they really liked what you were saying in your cover letter and they want to have a interview with you. Now, I will preface this by saying all of my interviews were virtual. Even before COVID, all of them were virtual. And when I applied for the internship with the professor, I didn't really need an interview because we had already talked one-on-one plenty of times and had that rapport. For the virtual interviews that I did do, I had a foolproof method that helped me stay on my game throughout the interview and helped me really prepare. I'm not great at winging things, so the first thing that I did was create a cheat sheet. And I literally had this up, I printed it out and I had it on my desk, like on the wall behind my desk, so I could glance at it while I was interviewing on my actual computer. And it was super helpful just to have that as a backdrop in case I ever stalled or couldn't think of what to say. I could look up at that as a reference. And on your cheat sheet, you are going to want to have bullet points. Obviously, you're not going to be able to read paragraphs during your interview. In terms of actual content, you are going to want to have the answers prepared to at least these 5 questions. The first one, honestly, every interview I've ever had, including for jobs, has started with "tell me about yourself." I don't love it. I think it's too vague, but there is kind of a formula. You don't want to tell your life story. You want to tell them how you got into the field, why you got into the field, what motivates you, and what kind of worker you are. They don't need to know every little detail about your personal life or your work life for that matter. They just need to know the highlights. I will say, if you know a little bit about the person, you can sprinkle in like a hobby that you do that you think they might be into or that you already know they're into, just for a little personal touch there. The second question that they will probably ask is why that company or that internship. To prepare for this one, you're going to want to research the company and know their mission and their values and how you fit into it. If you're applying for a research internship with a college, you're going to want to research the department that you're going to be doing the internship with and seeing what projects they have going on, what their main topics of interest are, and coming up with a few questions about those topics. That will show that you're already invested and have an interest in what they already do, further showing that you are the perfect fit for them. The next question is also, I think, a pretty lame question, but I've also been asked this so many times, and it's, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? And yet again, there is a formula to this one. So for your strengths, you don't just want to tell them, hey, I'm good at math and science and data visualization. You want to say, I created this interactive dashboard on Tableau for a class that I took last semester. I can send you the link to it. I was really proud of it. And you go into the details of what that dashboard was, and telling them that story and showing that you're excited about it will be huge. It gives them a lot more to work off of when they're evaluating you, rather than just telling them a list of skills. And then when you go to tell them your weaknesses, only give them one. And this one thing should not be terrible, and it should also be something that you are working on. So my go-to was that I took on too much and that I couldn't delegate, because honestly, it's true. And the actual issue of taking on too much isn't catastrophic when it comes to an internship. In terms of delegating, as an intern, you're not really doing that anyways. So while it is a weakness, I'm showing that this isn't going to break your bank. And also, I'm working on it. I would give a recent example of how I asked for help in one of my classes and showing how I am working on the issue of taking on too much. You want to prepare that answer well in advance before they actually ask you, because you don't want to accidentally start rambling about the things that you did wrong for a specific class or a past internship. That won't help either of you. So make sure you come prepared with the answer to that question. The next one you want to prepare for is how you will fit into this role. And you can take from your cover letter on this one. Essentially, you are matching up your skills with the skills that they listed on the job description and giving examples of those skills. But this last one isn't always asked in internships, because a lot of internships will have a set stipend that they are unwilling to negotiate. But if your internship does have any room for negotiation on salary and they ask you about salary in that first interview, never answer with an actual number. Tell them that you are open to having that discussion later down the road, but need to know a little bit more information about the company and the role that you'll have. Now, there might be questions that you didn't prepare for, but doing the background research on the company and doing a little introspection to answer those 5 questions will help you prepare for any curveballs that they throw your way throughout the interview. And then you'll want to end the interview by coming up with 5 to 10 questions for the actual interviewer about the role itself and the company. You won't want to ask all 10, but having that list and then picking and choosing based on the vibes that you got from the interviewer will help you show them that you're actually very invested already in the role. And out of those questions that you do end up asking, your last one should always be on next steps, so that you can end the interview knowing what to expect and you're not just sitting there waiting for an answer from them for maybe weeks, because that can be absolutely miserable. So you want to know what's coming. I hope you found this helpful and it gives you some guidance for finding an internship opportunity and navigating through the application process. If you did find it helpful, you might want to check out my other videos geared towards college students to help you out in your undergrad and your career search. I'll link it up here so you can check those out. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.